Justice League is causing all the stirs from the conception to final release. With the film adaptation gaining mixed reviews, the fans of the DC Comics still enjoyed the movie. One of the reasons is the movie brimming with fan service, cameos, shared universe connections, and comic references. To make sure that no DC or DCEU fan misses out on the Easter eggs, a single comic book reference, or subtle detail, we're breaking them all down. Disclaimer: the following content is nothing but spoilers, so don't watch it until you watch the movie first. Here we go in no particular order. The Justice League have been around since 1960 and first appeared in Brave and the Bold number 28. However, the main concepts of this movie are based on the comic book story Justice League Origin that upgraded the team's initial team-up for a new generation. Unlike the movie, the villain of the comic was Darkseid, but the Parademon hordes, the mother boxes, and the tying of Cyborg's origin to Fourth World technology all come straight out of this story. The similarities to that story echo even in the early scene in the movie, with Batman taking on a self-destructing Parademon on a rooftop. While on the subject of early scenes, the opening scene with some kids video recording the answers to their questions to Superman is very reminiscent to Spider-Man Homecoming, which showcases Peter Parker's coverage of Civil War. Not connected, but definitely similar. This opening also gave us our first look into the badly hidden mustache that Henry Cavill was sporting while filming of this movie. The timelines for Justice League and Mission Impossible 6 collided, and Cavill had to keep his contractual mustache. Although the stash was digitally removed, but it made us focus more on the odd-looking face of Superman than on his mini monologue about hope. Now let's take a look on Parademons, the insect-like thugs that did the dirty work for Steppenwolf and made everyone's lives miserable. They're basically the foot soldiers of the planet Apocalypse, which is a hellish world living in opposition to New Genesis, the home of the New Gods and Forever people. Steppenwolf and the Parademons are trying to collect 3 mother boxes, more on that later, although Batman may have spent the time since Superman's death seeking out meta-humans hiding on the Earth, but it's the sudden appearance of Parademons that accelerates the formation of the League. That's not that surprising to fans of the new 52 version of DC's own Justice League, which followed a similar story in its own origin of the team. And the movie makes the connection more than a little clear. Also, when Batman manages to capture a Parademon to get information on their leader and mission, the alien foot soldier goes to extreme measures to keep Steppenwolf's secrets and destroys itself. The self-destruct is to be expected of these Parademons and was memorably showcased in the New 52 storyline at the same point. Still on the Batman vs. the Parademon sequence, there's a sign in the background advertising Janus, as in Janus Cosmetics, a well-known corporation in the DC Comics universe led by the Sionis family. When the son of the family, Roman, took over control, it became a criminal empire as well. As Black Mask, Roman Sionis became one of the most influential and erratic criminal kingpins in Gotham. Whether this sign is a nod to fans or a hint at the villain in future films, it's a secret only DC knows. Now, the villain in the movie, Steppenwolf, is the first Jack Kirby creation to show up in a DC superhero movie. In the comics, Steppenwolf is known to DC fans as the chief lieutenant of Darkseid and the leader of his Parademon army, but the movie grants him a new backstory. Steppenwolf was Darkseid's uncle and is responsible for the war between Apocalypse and New Genesis, but here he appears to be his nephew instead. It seems they swap Darkseid, the ruler of the planet Apocalypse, out for Steppenwolf in the story, since Darkseid only gets briefly mentioned once, which presumably means DC is in no rush to get to him yet. Anyways, the Steppenwolf version we see here looks the most like the version from DC's Earth 2 series, where he did indeed lead the invasion and murdered that world's versions of Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman. Steppenwolf has always been known for that axe of his, which here, when he strikes the ground, creates flaming craters that kind of look like the fire pits of Apocalypse. So these mother boxes that Steppenwolf is after is the unifying piece of technology of Jack Kirby's fourth world epic. As Diana Prince put it, they are power that can create and destroy. Mother boxes are often used to call down boom tubes, the preferred method of transport of the new gods and their friends and foes. We see them deployed quite a bit throughout this movie by Steppenwolf. Apparently exiled from Apocalypse after being defeated on Earth, Steppenwolf's connection to the alien world is tenuous at best and mostly absent from the finished cut of the movie. We do get to hear him say, "I will take my place among the new gods," which is a reference to Kirby's fourth world epic, and we momentarily hear a battle cry for Darkseid. Steppenwolf notes that Diana has the blood of the old gods in her veins, confirming the nature of Earth's ancient deities in the cosmic hierarchy. Steppenwolf also suggests that when he achieves victory, he will finally join the Order of New Gods. The New Gods themselves are an alien race created by Kirby, hailing from the planets of New Genesis and Apocalypse. The New Gods have incredible powers, including immortality, advanced strength, and intellect, and supposedly have evolved to complete perfection due to their existence outside normal space-time and close proximity to the primeval energy known as the Source. Since all this apocalyptic end of the world situation has partly led Batman on the hunt of metahumans, we see him riding a black horse as he goes to convince Aquaman to join the team. Even though Batman vs Superman Dawn of Justice was heavily influenced by the Dark Knight Returns comic, but the one thing we never got to see in that was any kind of homage to the famous panel of Batman charging on horseback. Whether it's intentional or not, having Bruce Wayne on a black steed in the snow in this movie feels kind of like one last nod to Dark Knight Returns before we move on with the rest of the story. In the scene where Bruce Wayne and Alfred are discussing the locations of other heroes, Alfred claims he can't help but long for the simpler days, specifically the ones in which exploding wind-up penguins were the worst of Bruce Wayne's concerns. The line is a specific nod to Tim Burton's original Batman movies and the explosive foot soldiers of Batman Returns. In that film, the penguins rigged with explosive rockets weren't wind up at all, but we suppose that's a bit more believable. The detective that Gordon talks to, who is suspicious about the whole Parademon scenario, is Crispus Allen, who in the comics eventually becomes the Spectre, the nearly all-powerful supernatural or undead Avenger under the influence of Darkseid's mind control over him. This might be another hint of the Justice League Dark movie that we will probably never see. The headlines proclaiming the death of Superman are reminiscent of the ones in the comics after Superman died in 1992. There's another clever touch with the movie's newspapers though, which put Superman's 2016 death alongside that year's deaths of similar pop culture aliens like David Bowie and Prince, with a headline stating if the deaths of these personalities is a disguise as they return to their respective planets. Moreover, Clark Kent was buried in a conservative dark blue business suit with a red tie and black shoes. That is the exact outfit that the comic book version of Clark Kent wore in virtually every single comic book appearance from roughly 1938 until 86. The debate on whether to use the Mother Box to bring back Superman directly refers the last movie, where Lex Luthor uses the Kryptonian birthing chamber to create Doomsday, an ancient Kryptonian abomination that combines the DNA of Zod and himself. And at this point, the Pet Sematary reference that Barry keeps giving is Stephen King's book and eventual film of the same name, which follows a cursed cemetery that can bring back the dead, but the reanimated people and animals come back wrong. They fear this is what might happen to Superman, and it did, because when he wakes up, well, it's not pretty. This Superman going all chaotically crazy scene serves two purposes though. For one thing, it demonstrates how he is more powerful than the entire team combined, and his disorientation and raw fury are a slight nod to how in the comics and cartoons, Superman has been manipulated by Darkseid on several occasions. While that doesn't quite happen here, the role of fourth world technology in his resurrection feels like it's not a coincidence. And this way that Superman is brought back is very, very different than he did in the comics. In the comics, Superman came back in Reign of the Superman, which revealed that Superman's body had been stolen by the last son of Krypton, aka the Eradicator, and put into a regeneration matrix inside the Fortress of Solitude. When we get to Superman in action against the League, he is seemingly unable to remember his past life until Batman shows up. Superman gets Batman in a chokehold, and the question, "Do you bleed?" is the first indication that Clark remembers life before his death and Batman's role in it. Wonder Woman spots the bomb hostage plot at a London courthouse as she's perched atop a massive golden statue of Lady Justice. The real origins of the scales of justice-wielding warrior hints at a thematic layering. First, that statue is actually the mythological Themis, a titan of Greek mythology. Put plainly, she's something of an old god of earth. As the embodiment of divine justice, Themis represents more than law but a natural order. That sword of hers is not actually for war, but a representation of her ability to divide right from wrong, cruel from just. And that's the exact kind of pure heroism Wonder Woman was designed to have, even if she uses her sword for fighting too. Talking of Wonder Woman, there's a fun thing at the end where we see some criminals being taken care of, and before the camera sweeps to the bound group of thieves disguised as cleaners, the camera pans at a sharply dressed lady thief being led away. Given that Wonder Woman 2 is lined up for production, it might be a wink at the upcoming movie's villain, Priscilla Rich, the original Cheetah, who is a drop-dead gorgeous, talented dancer and charitable millionaire who developed this weird obsession with Diana. Whenever Rich felt overshadowed by Wonder Woman's glory, she would develop an evil persona known as the Cheetah, don her iconic cat costume, and commit crimes to outwit her Amazon nemesis. Jason Momoa revealed shortly before the launch of Justice League that Zack Snyder had let him in on a secret only Arthur Curry would know. After years of speculation, it was finally confirmed that Aquaman saved Superman in Man of Steel during Clark Kent's efforts to save the crew of a flaming oil rig in the middle of the sea. Aquaman presumably dragged him loose of the wreckage before Clark regained consciousness. So when Bruce first brings up the Kryptonian hero when recruiting Aquaman, he keeps the truth to himself. He met Superman long before Batman did. In the first encounter of Barry Allen and Bruce Wayne, the speedster begins to count off his unique skills and qualifications. Among them is not only the ability to speak sign language, but gorilla sign language. That's a fairly obvious reference to the super sentient ape gorilla Grodd, a primate who relied upon his telepathic skills to give the Flash a headache. Perhaps this suggestion that Barry Allen is working with, or at least communicating with gorillas, is teasing an alternate origin for Grodd. Vic Stone, or Cyborg, has been around since 1980. Historically, Vic has been most associated with the Teen Titans until he became a Justice League member with the New 52 reboot in 2011, which tied his origin story to the formation of the League. But his involvement in the movies is a long time coming. Not only does Victor Stone's introduction satisfy the fans of DC's modern League, but puts to rest the lingering mystery of the extensive football scenes shot by Zack Snyder for Batman vs. Superman. It was assumed during production that the game existed to give Victor Stone, the athlete, not the superhero, his DCEU debut. But when the theatrical cut of Batman vs Superman failed to include a football game at all, fans were shocked. Unfortunately, Justice League still does not include the footage of Victor in action, but as an extra bonus for fans, Ray Fisher has confirmed that Zack Snyder planted a sly crossover in Batman vs Superman for his character, specifically his absence. That football game being watched by the two cops in the Ultimate Cut, where Metropolis State trounces GCU, the reason Gotham is losing so badly is because their star quarterback is missing. Since it's the exact time period of Victor's accident, fans don't get a Stone highlight reel, but his absence speaks volumes. The movie confirms that the Green Lantern Corps exists in the DC movie universe, not only with Steppenwolf observing that no such lanterns now guard Earth, but a Green Lantern is seen fighting to defeat Steppenwolf, although it's not one easily recognized and one who dies moments after making their DCEU debut. As an added bonus for fans, the ring departing its fallen bearer and zipping off to find a new replacement is included, with Steppenwolf staring down the escaping ring with obvious disdain. Another great Easter egg can be found in the form of a neon sign which illuminates against the night when Gordon lights the bat signal. The sign shows the company Ace Chemicals, one of the most infamous manufacturers and handlers of toxic chemicals in the comic book universe. For starters, Ace Chemicals is held as the Boom location where the Joker was born into his pale-skinned, green-haired, fractured-minded murderer form. It's also another bit of world building for the DC movie universe, since director David Ayer adapted the story to screen in Suicide Squad. That movie made it the birthplace of both Joker and Harley Quinn, and even as the Justice League begins to take shape, it's a Gotham landmark that's hard to ever miss. In the flashback of the battle between Steppenwolf and an alliance of humans, Amazons, and Atlanteans, this alliance had some supernatural help in tipping the scales in their favor, most notable among them being Zeus himself. At least that's what's implied by Diana, who claims that the Amazons were aided by gods, almost certainly the same Olympian gods and goddesses spoken of in the Wonder Woman solo movie. So when one such god can be seen unleashing lightning at Steppenwolf and his forces, Zeus is the logical choice. This was thousands of years before he fathered Diana, but it's a sign of the age of heroes that reports say Zack Snyder intended to make even more pivotal to his Justice League story. But it can also be a historical version of Shazam, either the wizard himself or the champion. Although lightning throwing was traditionally not part of his power set, but the Geoff Johns Gary Frank revamp of the character changes that a little. Justice League features a running joke that the Flash just cannot wrap his head around the concept of brunch and why people even bother with it. This seems like an offhand joke about a cliche millennial hobby, but there's actually a precedent for members of the League to go out to brunch with each other. Specifically, this seems like a play on a scene in Kingdom Come in which Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman all go to a Justice League-themed restaurant for breakfast. After all, they are just not partners, they are super friends who go out to eat together. After Batman vs Superman found a small role for everyone's favorite photojournalist, Jimmy Olsen, really small, killed off screen before he was even named, the longtime fans of the Man of Steel will be happy to see the actor who made Jimmy Olsen a hero get his time in the spotlight. Actor Mark McClure had previously teased a Justice League movie cameo, and now he's not playing a journalist but appearing as a prison guard speaking with Barry Allen when he goes to visit his imprisoned father. The Star Labs janitor who goes missing then gets eaten by parademons is apparently named Howie Jensen, a janitor in a top-secret area working with alien tech in the DC universe, links up to supervillain the Parasite. The most famous version of the Parasite was Rudy Jones, a Star Labs janitor who ended up wallowing in some toxic waste, perhaps coincidentally because Darkseid manipulated him into it. Anyway, this isn't Rudy Jones, so it can't be the Parasite, but there was a previous Parasite named Raymond Jensen, which seems to be our pal Howie's name in this. In any event, it's unlikely to see him return as the Parasite in Man of Steel 2. The fact that all this stuff goes down under red skies feels like a nod to Crisis on Infinite Earths or virtually any DC event with Crisis in the title. While those usually have to do with the multiverse, it still feels appropriate as an event signifier. As part of the closing montage of character scenes, Bruce Wayne finally re-enters the Wayne Manor, seen abandoned in Dawn of Justice. He is building a headquarters for the team there, one which will include a large round table with 6 chairs and room for more to come. That's a reference to the Hall of Justice as in the versions seen in Super Friends or the modern DCAU Justice League shows. The round table is a trademark of the headquarters. The mid and post-credit scenes has the audience talking, and we covered it in detail in a previous video, so check that out. For now, we'll talk about the important scene of the two, the post-credits one, where Lex Luthor is talking to Deathstroke and discussing a possible future of Injustice League or Secret Society to match the league formed by our heroes. The release date of the movie has a direct connection with the date when its animated predecessor was debuted on TV. The movie came out on the same date, November 17th, as did the TV series. Moreover, the movie will focus on the death of Superman and his heroic return on the 25th anniversary of DC's The Death of Superman comic. That's all for our take on the Justice League Easter eggs, comic references, and secrets. Let us know below if we missed anything. Also, like and subscribe for more fun content. Until next time.